Momentum is building. Now let's see what the charts actually confirm. This is Bitcoin on Point, where I give you the only news that matters and the cleanest technical analysis to trade the best asset in the world, Bitcoin. Now at this moment in time, Bitcoin is defending a multi-year trend line, and this isn't the first, it's not the second. This is the third major point of contact on this defense mechanism. So moments like this don't matter because of predictions, they matter because of reaction. So the real question is simple: does structure hold or does it fail? Now, before we go deeper into the chart, let's zoom out to our macro backdrop because the picture is quietly shifting again. Tom Lee's Bitmine has staked another 86,400 ETH worth $266 million. Now, in total, Bitmine has staked 1 million ETH worth 3.3 billion. Now, why does this matter? Because this isn't passive holding. This is locking the supply, it's reducing liquid Ethereum, and it also signals long-term conviction, not short-term speculation. So when capital of this size chooses staking over selling, it tells you how institutions are positioning. Now let's talk about Bitcoin mining. Just in, Bitcoin mining difficulty finally blinked lower in 2026, giving miners a brief breather. So this doesn't change the long-term trend, but it does reduce short-term sell pressure and help stabilize supply during key structural zones or shifts. And even the small shifts matter whilst the price is compressing. So this is massive for the easing of sell pressure on Bitcoin miners. Now, regulatory clarity. Looking at this sort of front, the Senate votes January the 15th on the Clarity Act, a crypto rulebook aimed at killing fake volume, wash trades, and shady reserves. So in other words, this is about cleaning up the market, not killing it. Clear rules reduce uncertainty, and uncertainty is what keeps large capital sidelined. So the macro takeaway here is, when you connect the dots, billions in ETH are being staked, miner pressure is easing, and regulatory clarity is approaching. This isn't noise, it's positioning beneath the surface whilst price works through critical technical levels. Now let's bring all of this back to the charts. And we'll look straight away at Bitcoin's monthly, coming back to this respected trend line. Now, if this trend line does continue to hold, there is a strong likelihood of a 58% rally back up to the all-time highs. But that scenario only stays alive as long as the trend line is respected, right? If it breaks, the narrative completely changes. This is a reaction zone, not a prediction zone. Please remember that. Now, let's head over to the weekly time frame. We go from the larger time frames down into the lowers, and we cover all angles. Now, on the weekly time frame, Bitcoin is respecting a key moving average. What we actually have is the 100 EMA, which is this black line. And the last time Bitcoin actually got back above it in 2023, this is where we saw a massive 292% rally. Now, we are evidently seeing a clean retest back on this 100 EMA support. So if this holds, and we actually hold the macro demand zone, which is the lows from April of 2025 in the 80K vicinity, then it's likely that Bitcoin could see this breakout pushing back to new all-time highs. But again, it all depends on how price behaves and reacts around this level. Now, on the 3-day time frame, the fear box is still being respected. And the main message here is to not panic and buy the fear. Bitcoin has a critical level of support from these March and April lows below, but it is currently respecting the wick low from November, which sits at $80,000, and looks like it's trying to build some sort of structure before pushing through imminent levels of supply. Now, if we do hold this panic box, okay, which is where we should not panic, right? This is where we could see that extended push up into supply at 100K. So you'll notice that this was a previous level of support, this 100K territory, back through sort sort of mid 2025. We initially lost this support in November and have since come back down to this 80K low. Now, it does look like Bitcoin is attempting once again inside this fear box to build some sort of base structure where it needs to find a key level of support before attempting the push back into this 100K area, which was a previous level of support that may now act as a level of resistance. But breaking through that 100K is the main objective to start pushing towards the the current all-time high, in fact. So what you need to take away from the 3-day time frame is, as long as price holds above this area, the higher time frame bias remains constructive and the bulls are still in control. Now let's zoom in to the 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin. Now this is a very important chart. We're looking a lot more intimate here, and the price is playing out exactly as discussed in earlier videos. We had this key level of support where Bitcoin is currently holding above the $90,000 mark, which was previously a level of resistance throughout December. And if this level holds as support, it could mark a local low before attempting the continuation higher. So all eyes on the key level, roughly at $90,000 to $89,000, holding as support. Liquidity has been taken and the price has returned back to this key level. So where the liquidity was actually taken was back at these 94K highs. And this is a major supply zone for Bitcoin that it needs to reclaim. Again, that liquidity was taken, and this is why we've seen the drawback back down into the key levels where we could potentially flip $90,000 into support. So the question is simple here. Does the price dip any lower back into this key level area before attempting continuation? And really and truly, this is where patience matters most. Now, on the 2-hour time frame for Bitcoin, it's even more evident how important it is to hold support on the previous $90,000 resistance. And this is why it's called the key level zone, because these were previous resistance points. Bitcoin did hold as support in this key level. It broke through, ran into $94,000 supply and swept the liquidity and has now pushed back into the key level zone. But since this pushback into this territory, which occurred a couple of days ago, Bitcoin has been building an ascending level of support. So what this is telling us here is that if we can hold this ascending support line, this is where the buyers are stepping in. Now, shifting over to Ethereum. And on the weekly time frame, ETH looks incredibly supportive. And this is because it's reclaimed a very important trend line that it needs to hold as support. So last week, we actually got the close back above this trend line, and this could signal continuation higher. It's constructive, but the continuation still requires further confirmation. And on the daily time frame for ETH here, we're actually seeing a retest back down to where we actually came out and broke out from a very important level of resistance. So ETH was coiling up inside this symmetrical triangle with support, resistance. It got very compressed. And on the first week of January, this is where we actually saw the breakout. We ran into supply at $3,300, and now we've come back down towards that breakout level. So from here, if ETH can hold this level, then this is where we are likely to see continuation. But failing that, if we do lose it, there is deeper rotation likely to happen yet again, with support waiting below. So we simply wait for reaction, not basing this on prediction, right? So when we stack all of this together, Bitcoin on the monthly time frame is respecting a major bullish trend line. This is the third point of contact since 2023, and if support holds, this could proceed into a 58% rally back up to the all-time highs. On the weekly time frame for extra confluence, we have the 100 EMA, which is acting as a support level, currently sitting at $86,000. The last time Bitcoin reclaimed this moving average, we saw significant rallies to new all-time highs. On the 3-day time frame, we do have a don't panic, buy the fear box, and this is where, again, ironically, do not panic It's where we potentially could be building a massive macro base before expansion. And with Ethereum, we are actually holding back above support lines that need to identify for confirmation before the continuation of the trend. Now, also, Bitcoin's lower time frames show us the more intricate level where $90,000 is a very important level to hold as support. Now, before we wrap up the video, here is a quick update on our trading challenge, where I'm currently taking $10,000 with the aims of turning it into 100K. Now, we're doing this with full transparency, and in fact, we've already taken our first trade, which was on TON USDT, and now we're patiently waiting for the next high quality setups. All of the trade entries, all of the exits, and the reasonings are shared in my free Telegram channel. The Telegram link is in the description, so make sure you join. Now, I'm also using this exquisite profit precision platform to track and manage every single trade properly so that every single trade stays clean and accountable. Now, I've also attached the Profits Precision link in the description below. So it's very evident here. These are my final thoughts. The levels are clear. The structure is visible. We simply let the market do the talking. Until next time, all of the best, and I will see you in the next update.